This conference will now be recorded.
Busy, but I appreciate this. And this talk tonight from me is not about look at the things I've done. Okay, it's more I'm just a very ill-qualified physics teacher, and I've had these amazing experiences. So look at the things that you can do. If I can do these, I'm sure you can do things a lot better. So just to give you a bit of background, I'm probably the least qualified for a physics teacher amongst you all. I walked out of teacher training after my first ever lesson I taught. I only went back because I couldn't find anything else to do. I got into physics teaching as I wanted to get married. I thought Hoyk was close to Edinburgh. I've gone for at least 15 teacher curriculum jobs and only got to the interview stage where I completely cocked it up. The only PT job I ever got was when I was pregnant, and I only applied for that because the doctor told me to take my mind off things. So what I'm saying here is mostly, lots of people would look at my career and think, well, it's been more snakes than ladders. I seem to have gone down more than up. And yet when I look back, because it's probably coming to an end soon, I've probably had the most amazing experiences. And it's just because I've taken opportunities, and there are so many opportunities out there. So today I want to inspire you. I've set myself a maximum of 20 minutes, so my alarm's going to go off in 20 minutes. So I hopefully won't take you too long. The thing I think recently is it took me a long time to get to know this quote. This is from Krista McAuliffe, who was killed in the Challenger disaster. Was like, find the reason that you teach. What do you love about teaching? What do you love about the subject you're teaching? And then inspire the students to enjoy that love with you. And I think then that will really increase your level of participation, your enjoyment. The kids see what you're excited about and just share that. When I did get my PT job, I was asked at the interview one thing, what would you do? And I'm sure nobody on the interview panel remembered me what I did, and whether I said the right answer. I just said, I will change the corridor because it's as bleak as anything. So one of the first things I did was got £500 from the Institute of Physics. They're absolutely fantastic. I said I wanted to improve the corridor. So this is very out of date, in 1997. So most of you probably weren't even born. I got the money to make this. It took a few years. And actually, when we moved to a new school, I managed to take it with me. So, there are things that you can do. I live in a really rural area, and we don't really have opportunities. We have no prestigious university campus. We're very rural, and our students don't get the experience of those in the Central Belt. So I've made it my mission. One of the reasons that I love to teach and want to be in there is to get people to love science, get people to want to be educated, and get people to believe that they can have those experiences as well. So one of the things that I did was ran a Einstein year, which is 2005, and I ran a set of lectures, and they were fantastic. Really, I just wanted people around the school to see that there are scientists out there and there are fantastic people who speak. Unfortunately, you can't book John Brown because as the Astronomer Royal then, he's since died. Dr. Martin Hendry is now a professor, but just to say that they came into school, they gave a talk during the day to the students, which was brilliantly received, and then they gave a talk to the parents in the evening, which was, really beneficial. It gives people the chance to meet some scientists. Do watch out if you do book speakers. There are some fantastic speakers, but do make sure that somebody has checked, because some scientists really still aren't brilliant at being able to talk to young people, and they could have quite a negative effect. But this was part of the lecture tour. I wanted to get the old school building, which is this bit here. I wanted to get it thermal imaged. I didn't have the £500 for that, so I thought, well, how can I do it? So what we did was we got the bloke to speak, and I was looking him up. He's Tom Barber. He came in, he offered to do the £500 to do the school, but then he offered to come in at night and ran an evening lecture, again, where parents were invited. We ran it as this eco do. It was a brilliant time. We do tend to charge for the events, and you think, well, why do that? But I found that if people get charged, they generally turn up, whereas if it's free, they think, oh, I can't be bothered to go out tonight. So it might be something to think of if you're wanting to run something like that. I don't know how many of you have been involved in the IOP rocket launchers. These are fantastic. I went on a course, IOP course, to learn to build these, which was great, but I didn't have the money to buy them. So it's like, right, I want to buy these, I want to build these. Where will I get the money? So I applied for a National Science and Engineering Week grant. They gave me the money, and then we decided, well, we'll have a rocket competition, and that's the way I got it funded. Unfortunately, 2 weeks before we did it, they came to dig up the playing field, but that didn't matter. Just say, make the most of an opportunity, which actually worked out brilliantly, because these guys in all the high-vis jackets are actually the people that built the school. And as somebody said, if they don't win the rocket competition, should they be building the school? And they absolutely blew us away with it. So, but they ended up taking their that thing to measure distances. So it's great. Got quite interested in space. So again, made contacts. The tall guy over here, he ran the Wigtonshire Astronomical Society. So we had a chance to go out and see them, and then he ran a competition. So it's all about these little connections. Make a connection, meet somebody, and then see what you can do for each other. Okay, people are really keen to help teachers. Okay, and they often get cues from it. So think, what will they gain out of it? What do we want to gain? Often we want to gain money and experiences for our kids. They generally just want a nice photo opportunity, and it's part of their budget. So think about that. It's a two-way process. One of the most amazing things I got to do, if you are somebody who's just gone university school like me, hasn't had really much experience in the world, I thought it would be a great idea that I actually went to work one day. So I was lucky enough to get a 7-week placement at Chapel Cross Nuclear Plant. It was fantastic, so amazing, the people there, and just to realise that the world of work is actually slightly different from what we experience in day to day. It was funded by the Royal Society of Edinburgh, so I did have a look, and it says at the moment that it's closed for opportunities, but keep an eye out. It might be something that you do want to do. Again, it was one of my ways of trying to get out of teaching, but never quite happened. Amazingly, from there, that opened up loads of other opportunities. So again, just looking for those connections. So while I was at Chapel Cross, I realised that these people called Young Foresight were trying to make a video, and I got in contact and said, if you want to do anything in Scotland, I'm here, hello, come and ask me. And they did, and actually they paid for me to go down to London, to Soho, where I actually sat and watched them making this video, which you can find online because the company's lost its money. So again, you'll find my name there, so I'm quite pleased. I was the person who put Shetland on the map. Another thing I got is every morning, in the morning, I looked, after I've been to the loo, at this thing that said, this person is responsible for your safety, which I thought was great in a nuclear power plant. And now what I do is I give at the front of pupils' jotters a little bit of aluminium foil, I can't afford a mirror, and says this person is responsible for your learning, and we discuss that. So that's something I've taken from my experience and I've put into my teaching. I then got obsessed with dolls' houses. Now the dolls' houses started from a inter-house competition. Again, I wanted something to start with CFE. CFE to me was quite an exciting opportunity. I thought we can sort of G up all this boring science that people see it as boring physics, and science is never boring, but maybe the way we put it to the kids is. So I started looking at the heat learning outcomes, and our whole topic about heat is building it around trying to insulate a house, and the kids are given a free hand at that. So I got funding again, the National Science and Engineering Week, and every school in our region got a doll's house. Most of them have ended up in our school because I think most people don't use them, but I love these doll's houses. So once you've had one doll's house, you can't have enough. So I went back to MAGNOX, which was the contacts I'd made when I was out at Chapel Cross, and they funded me to make another doll's house. And so a whole electricity topic is all based around home comforts and a doll's house. And I'm saying to the students that I'm going to train you to be like little electricians, and at the end of the course, if you're good enough, you can make something for my doll's house. So as you can see in the corner, somebody's made a kebab device. I'm sure you've all made kebab machines in your house, and a barbecue and treadmills and things like that. I have no idea about the snooker table. Something that I've got back into the coaches know about this, was in 2007, actually on my 40th birthday. I'm that old. I got involved with the Faulkes Telescope as part of that Dark Skies project. And for there, you get to remotely use this telescope over here. There's loads of telescopes. I've actually was doing one today, and I've taken the image. This is my last image. It is of the Helix Nebula, and that's nearly 700 light years away. And that can really wow the students. So get your name up for the Faulkes Telescope if you can. It's a real time. You get to do it. You don't quite know what's going to happen, and we'll talk about that later. The most amazing experiences I've had, and Stuart described these as my holiday photos, is that I was chosen for the Scottish Space School. So this is astronaut Nick Baker, who came to our school. This is Nick Patrick, and I'm afraid my husband might be listening, but I've considered this better than my wedding photos, because that's me there when I was younger, obviously, in the International Space Station Mission Control Room. So that was pretty amazing experience there, and I can bring that back later. Some of you might recognize this guy. I didn't actually until somebody pointed it out. This is the most exclusive band in the world called MAXQ, and to be a member of MAXQ you have to be an astronaut, so I'll come back to that. So again, these are astronauts. I've been swimming. This is an astronaut here, an astronaut, you know, so some amazing places. Unfortunately, this place got knocked down, but it's the pub where the astronauts used to go and hang out. So just amazing. Unfortunately, in all the time I was involved in the Scottish Space School, I only had one of my students manage to get to go. Hopefully you'll be more successful with your students. So what do you do if you can't get your students to get to go on the Scottish Space School? Well, you run your own. So what we're doing now is we run a Dumfries and Galloway Space School. I can't think most schools at home don't have enough pupils, so I've run it as a regional space school, and unfortunately we should have gone in October holidays, but you can imagine why not. Another little then gem of an idea I had was, if I've done dolls houses and electricity things, how can I represent our mechanics and speed? And I thought, well, let's link that to road safety. So again, to me, this is what road safety is about. This is what physics is about. So again, this would fit if you were a maths teacher. So I worked with this guy from MAGNOX, so that's again Chapel Cross. They used some of their budget for safety budget, and we managed to buy loads of kit from them. And I worked with this fantastic guy. He was inspector, and he was responsible for putting in the ideas for that. I won't tell you too much. If you want to know any more about that, you can come to the ASE conference, where I will be taking a workshop on that. So when we do speed, distance, time, we don't just do it from the board. We get the kids with play mats working out your speed, distance, time. Your local police, before they went to Police Scotland, were all given 5 of these by CERC, so these 5 timers. So if you contact your road safety officer, you should be able to find some of those. And why don't you just say, look, we'll offer to hold these for you and keep them in your school until anybody calls for them. So that's another thing to do. Our road safety led to a Royal Society partnership grant, obviously funded by the Royal Society. We got nearly £3,000, and I worked with that Neil Hewitson, the Inspector Neil Hewitson, who you've seen, to put together a road safety thing. We were lucky enough then to be selected to go and display our work at the Royal Society. So 17 of my students have had dinner with royalty and Nobel Prize winners, which is amazing. Part of that as well is I've got to speak to the Cross Party Group of MSPs. And all of this is just because I took a project that I liked. I was interested in road safety, and I just said, right, where can we run with this? This amazing and very tolerant man in the middle actually took our road safety project to the European Commission and came back with a trophy. So the best road safety project in Europe. And I was lucky enough to go to Science on Stage, which is amazing. Both times I've managed to go, and I felt like a total fraud with all these amazing teachers there. And then there was me. But just the opportunities you get. So again, if you can ever link into Science on Stage, that would be fantastic. So maybe not just yet. My next partnership grant, after I had a little rest, was to say that I thought that student hearing was deteriorating. So again, with £3,000 from the Royal Society, we tested this, and we worked with somebody I'd met at the last Science on Stage, and we've got Rosie, the pink head here, and we did a load of investigation, and that got me to the next Science on Stage. So some of our pupils are actually being able to use proper audiometers, and it was great when one of the students tested their dad's hearing, and when he went to Specsavers to get his hearing tested, it was exactly the same as the one in Specsavers. So we were pretty chuffed with what they've done. This again was a lovely lady. I think this book's going to become quite a legend. So she's just spent years producing a book all about climate change and all about the actual costs. And again, it was just from a contact that I made at the Royal Society Summer Science Exhibition. So just make these contacts and just go with somebody. I always did want to get into the SQA, but I was always so exhausted by the end of term that I never felt up to it. But I somehow managed to get myself on a writing team for a item bank writing, and I was so nervous about the questions that I produced, I actually sent them in 19 questions for the price of 10. So I got paid for 10, wrote 19. Actually, 18 of them was used, and amazingly, the next year I found myself writing the advanced higher paper. So there's a bit of advice if you want to manage to do the advanced higher paper, always make it look like you're cheap. Okay, so here are a selection of ideas and places where you might want to think, yeah, I'm really interested in those. And these are places where you can get funding, you can get advice, you can get experience. Have those ideas and just go somewhere and just think, I can do these things. I want money, I want funding, I want an experience for my students, and go for it. And just to leave you with this, because I did say 20 minutes and I've had 19 and a half, it says here from Jim Lovell, I'm sure you'll know who he is, but Apollo 13 if you're too young. There are people who make things happen. There are people who watch things happen. There are people who wonder what happened. To be successful, you need to be a person that makes things happen. So lots of people would look at my career. I don't think my parents were very amazed that I wasn't a head teacher, which never appealed to me. But now, as I'm ending my career, I think actually I've had an amazing time and I've really enjoyed the students, and hopefully they've learned something from me because of my enthusiasm. So as you start on your careers, I hope that you will all go out and do something amazing and just inspire those students, because as Krista McAuliffe says, I touch the future, I teach. So thank you very much. Here are some of the links. I'm sure Matthew's been doing a great job of putting them all into the chat box, and I'll pass it back over to you for any questions.